What if peace wasn't something you had to chase, but something you had to make space for? We live in a world that celebrates the hustle, glorifies holding on, and often mistakes obsession for passion. But what if the real power lies in release? Today we're not talking about giving up. We're talking about leveling up through letting go. This isn't about being careless. This is about becoming unbothered. Let's explore the art of letting go. We grow up with this silent rule etched into our minds: hold on at all costs, hold on to opportunities, hold on to relationships, hold on to routines, even the ones that quietly wear us down. Because somewhere along the way we began to equate holding on with strength, we were taught that letting go is a sign of weakness, of failure, of giving up. But what if that belief is holding us back more than anything else? The truth is, letting go isn't losing, it's leading, and leading starts with clarity of purpose. Great leaders, real leaders, don't grip tightly to every plan, every person, every outcome. They don't cling for the sake of control. They choose, intentionally. They let go of what no longer aligns with the why, because the why is the compass. It's not about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. Letting go becomes easier when you're anchored in that deeper reason. When you know why you're on the path you're on, you stop being afraid of taking off the backpack filled with rocks. You stop being loyal to weight you were never meant to carry in the first place. It's like climbing a mountain. The higher you go, the less you can afford to carry. Not because the things you're leaving behind are bad, but because they're too heavy for the altitude you're headed toward. We don't rise by adding more. We rise by releasing what no longer serves the journey. A leader who knows their why doesn't need to grip out of fear. They lead with open hands, trusting that letting go of the wrong thing always makes space for the right one. And here's the irony: when you lead this way, you don't lose influence, you gain it. People don't follow leaders who hoard, who obsess, who micromanage. They follow those who trust the process enough to release what isn't working. Because leadership isn't about controlling everything. It's about aligning everything to a deeper why, and sometimes that means letting go. We often carry a silent pressure on our shoulders, a pressure to perform, to meet expectations, to be everything for everyone. It creeps into our relationships, our decisions, our calendars, and before we realize it, we're not living for connection. We're living under obligation. We say yes when we mean no. We show up half-hearted because we're afraid of disappointing someone. We stay in circles, jobs, or habits not because they serve us, but because we fear what might happen if we walk away. That's the power of pressure. It convinces us that loyalty means endurance, even when it costs us our peace. But people, real people, meaningful relationships, they were never meant to be pressure points. They were meant to be partnerships. When we prioritize pressure over people, we reduce relationships to transactions. We become more focused on roles than connection, more focused on being liked than being true, and over time that pressure becomes a wall, a quiet barrier between us and the authenticity we crave. Putting people before pressure means something different. It means choosing presence over performance. It means showing up not out of fear, but out of care. It means releasing the weight of being perfect for everyone and embracing the reality that we're allowed to evolve, to shift, to grow. And so are the people around us. Sometimes we hold on to friendships or roles not because they still fit, but because we're afraid of the silence that follows a goodbye. We fear the pause, we fear the gap, but honoring people means honoring truth. And the truth is, staying somewhere emotionally, mentally, or even physically just to meet an expectation. That's not kindness, that's compromise. When you choose people over pressure, you choose depth over display. You let go of the need to prove your worth in places that stopped seeing it. You begin to prioritize mutual respect over forced connection. You begin to redefine loyalty, not as staying no matter what, but as showing up fully, honestly, and when it makes sense for both sides. There's a quiet confidence in knowing you're not responsible for managing everyone's perception of you. That's not connection, that's control masked as care. Real connection comes when we release that pressure and allow room for imperfection, for humanity, for truth. Letting go of people pleasing doesn't make you cold, It makes you clear, and that clarity frees up space for the people who love you, not for what you do, but for who you are. When you're unbothered by pressure, chaos has a way of making everything feel urgent. It's noisy, it's confusing, and it demands your attention. In the middle of chaos, nothing feels certain, and because of that, we tend to cling. We cling to what's familiar. We hold tight to routines, to relationships, even to our pain, because at least it's predictable. But growth rarely comes in predictability. It comes in the stretch, in the uncertainty, in that uncomfortable space between what was and what will be. Letting go often starts with disruption, not peace, not a plan, but disruption. The job ends, the relationship shifts, the routine breaks. Suddenly, you're standing in the middle of emotional static, unsure, overwhelmed, and reaching for anything that feels stable. And yet, this is the paradox. Clarity doesn't arrive in the middle of the noise. It shows up in the stillness that follows. But most of us are so uncomfortable with that stillness that we rush to replace it with more noise. We rebound, we reattach, we rebuild, too quickly, not because we're ready, but because we're afraid to sit with the space that chaos creates. But if we slow down, if we resist the urge to fix everything immediately, we start to notice something. There's wisdom in the wreckage. There are answers buried beneath the things we thought we needed. Chaos has a way of shaking everything loose, including the illusions we've built our lives on. And when the dust settles, what's left behind is usually what matters most. That's when clarity comes, not loud and dramatic, but quiet, gentle, certain. It doesn't fight for your attention like chaos does. It waits for you to be ready. Think of a snow globe. When you shake it, everything swirls. You can't see anything clearly in that moment, but if you let it sit, if you allow stillness, things begin to settle, and then, you see, that's what letting go feels like. Not clean, not immediate. It's chaotic at first. It disrupts your rhythms, it challenges your comfort, but when you stay with it, when you don't rush to escape the mess, clarity emerges. It tells you what to release, what to rebuild, what truly aligns with your next season, not your past one. Most of us think clarity leads to letting go, but it's usually the other way around. You don't wait for clarity to let go. You let go, and then the clarity comes. There comes a point in life when the most important question isn't, how do I fix this? But rather, is this even worth fixing? We've been conditioned to think that holding on is the noble thing to do. That fighting for things, even when they're clearly fighting against us, is a sign of strength, of loyalty, of resilience. But here's what we often forget. Resilience isn't about how long you can endure. It's about knowing when to walk away. Letting go is not an escape. It's not quitting. It's a declaration. A quiet but powerful statement that says, I will not abandon myself to keep something else alive. We spend so much of our lives trying to prove we're enough. Enough for people who don't appreciate us. Enough for systems that overlook us. Enough for expectations we never even agreed to. And in doing so, we chip away at ourselves. We ignore the signs. We tolerate the tension. We silence our own needs just to keep the peace. But peace that costs you yourself. Worth isn't peace itself, betrayal, and the longer you stay in places that require you to shrink, the more distant you become from your own sense of value. Letting go is how you come home to yourself. It's how you say, I respect my energy. I honor my emotional capacity. I know when something is no longer aligned with who I am becoming. That's not selfish, that's sacred. We often think of boundaries as walls, but they're not. They're mirrors. They reflect back to us what we believe we deserve. And sometimes the boundary looks like walking away, not because we hate what's on the other side, but because we love ourselves too much to keep negotiating with it. You teach the world how to treat you by what you accept, and the moment you let go of what insults your worth, you reclaim the power that was always yours. People who respect themselves don't waste time convincing others to do the same. They simply stop participating in dynamics where their value is up for debate. Letting go is the practice of choosing yourself again and again, especially in environments where you were taught to forget yourself. It's saying, I'm no longer available for relationships, roles, or routines that demand I prove something that's already true. You are already enough, you are already worthy. You don't need to earn your place in spaces that diminish you. You simply need to rise and walk out of them, and that rise begins the moment you stop justifying your pain and start honoring your peace. We often try to bring the entire past with us into the future. Old roles, old habits, old versions of ourselves, even when we know deep down, they don't fit anymore. It's human. We attach meaning to the familiar. We romanticize what we once settled for. And so we carry it with us, not because it still belongs, but because we're afraid of what it means to travel light. But growth, real growth, demands space. You cannot expand into a new season while dragging the weight of what you've already outgrown. That relationship that keeps circling back but never evolving, that identity you built just to survive a time in your life that no longer exists, that version of yourself that made sense for who you were, not who you are becoming. Outgrowing something doesn't mean you're ungrateful for what it gave you. It means you're being honest about what it no longer gives. You can appreciate the chapter and still know it's time to turn the page. You can love who you were and still outgrow what kept you there. But here's the tricky part. Sometimes what we've outgrown looks good on paper. It checks all the boxes. It makes sense to everyone else. So we start to doubt the discomfort. We start to explain away the quiet resistance rising within us. But alignment doesn't ask for permission from logic. It asks for truth. And the truth is, if you have to squeeze yourself to stay, you've already left internally. The future you envision isn't waiting for a perfect plan. It's waiting for a lighter version of you, the version that's willing to let go of what no longer fits the assignment. You can't build what's next with tools meant for who you were. The strategies, the coping mechanisms, even the people you once leaned on. They were right for that version of your life. But elevation requires evaluation. And sometimes the only reason your future feels blocked is because you're trying to bring something with you that's meant to be left behind. We forget that letting go isn't just emotional, it's strategic. Every decision to release something that no longer fits creates room for something that does, something more aligned, more fulfilling, more honest. More you, and no, it won't always feel easy. We grieve the familiar even when it hurt us. We doubt ourselves in the gap between release and arrival, but that space, that uncertainty, is sacred. It's where transformation takes root. You're not meant to feel at home in places you've outgrown. That discomfort, it's not failure, it's a signal, a call to step forward, not backward, because your future doesn't require your perfection. It requires your permission to move on, to grow up, to rise beyond what once defined you. Letting go is not a single moment. It's not one bold act and then silence. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, a daily decision to no longer be held hostage by what once had a grip on you. Because here's the truth, being unbothered isn't about apathy. It's not about becoming cold, distant, or detached. It's about mastering your focus. It's about understanding what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's about choosing peace over performance, clarity over chaos, self-respect over self-sacrifice. You don't let go because you're weak. You let go because you're done carrying what no longer belongs in the story you're writing. You let go of the pressure to prove. You let go of relationships that confuse consistency with connection. You let go of versions of yourself that were built for survival, not for expansion. And in that release, you rise. The art of letting go is not about losing. It's about returning to your why, returning to your worth, returning to the version of you that no longer needs to be everything to everyone, just true to yourself. Because the moment you start letting go is the same moment you start moving forward. And forward is where freedom lies.